how are your platonic and romantic relationships with women? Kind of already touched on that, but I want to hear from y'all.
I guess I'll go first, right? That's a good question. Wow, I feel like over the years it's really changed a lot for myself personally, especially since like kind of just I guess the way I grew up and like what I've kind of evolved to from the past couple of years has a lot to do with that too. Like I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, which is like a religion type of thing. So like my perspective on like relationships and dating and stuff was it was a little bit more, I guess you could say, narrow. You know what I'm saying? Like we was kind of taught like, you know what I'm saying, you don't have sex till marriage, you know, you date to marry. So kind of coming out of that environment, since I'm no longer in that religion anymore, you know, I've kind of like been able to develop my own, I guess, ideas and how I look at, you know, relationships and stuff. And I would say like growing up, I always had like pretty easy platonic relationships with women. Like I always got along with men and women really easily. But like with women, it was always easy for me to like be friends and be platonic. But like the dating aspect, I kind of struggle with in some aspects because it's like dating and friendships is like similar but different. Like dating is like a tier higher, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like I kind of struggle with kind of making that difference, kind of knowing how to differentiate because I've always been like a good friend, kind of like how you say, like I was able to like help people, give people advice, you know, stuff like that. So it was like kind of wanting to shift from that, like say I like somebody and shifting it from the friendship to the okay, I want to date you type of thing without being too friendly. Like that was kind of one of my things that I had to like I won't say eliminate, but I kind of had to learn how to differentiate it. Like, okay, like let me learn how to like set better boundaries or like make my intentions known. So I would say like now I would say my dating like you know it's a lot better. I think I'm getting more intentional like with what I want out of certain relationships. I think I've kind of been in certain ones that showed me what I liked, showed me what I didn't like, and I would say like going forward, you know what I'm saying? I think I have a clear picture. And I kind of realized too that I think the way society looks at like platonic relationships, it kind of gives it like a negative connotation because it's more so, especially for men, it's like you either got to be like dating women and having sex with them or like that's it. Like there is no like other type of connection. And I feel like for me, it always came natural to kind of just be cool with women because you can learn a lot from women. Like it's crazy how much I learned from women and just like you know what I'm saying, how much insight you can gain because it kind of help you when you're dealing with women dating and stuff like that because you know how they operate. At least that's how I think. But that's kind of like I guess you could say my take, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's getting better. I feel like I'm still a work in progress, you know, starting to trying to figure out what I like, but I would say it's been pretty solid so far.
All right. So a lot of what Lonnie said actually, especially about the differentiating thing, and as I got older, because obviously still I'm only 20, but what do you call it? Just over the years, I've definitely realized a lot more that I've also eventually, especially as of recent, come to the better understanding of figuring out how to set boundaries in between the two because that that's one thing like catching a female's eye or whatever is kind of something that like I'm not trying to say anything here but like whenever ever since I was like in first grade like my mom is she will like always say this like oh yeah I remember whenever you first walked in your first grade classroom the teacher told me that all the girls' eyes lit up and whatever and I'm just like okay I mean I don't remember that but whatever but anyways since like from a younger age, I've always been like a lot better at not manipulating the people, but manipulating my behavior in a way that would cause a specific outcome. Like as time would go on, at times in the past, I've like once I get acclimated with someone and really like get to know them better. Like if I really feel like I want to start shifting things towards that way, I've been really good at like doing exactly what I need to do to achieve that, and I've been really good at that. So much too as like of just all 3 relationships back to back, all being 2 years from like 7th or 8th grade. And but because of, like I said, that me understanding how my ability to be able to do that, that's where it really caused the issue of me not knowing when to or when not to, like how much to talk to some people, like not even just how to talk to them, but like you can be friendly, but sometimes you don't have to be like express like being friendly like to people all the time that are female, if like you have a girlfriend, or if you're just not trying to make someone see you as anything other than a friend. But yeah, as time's gone on, I've gotten a lot better at like looking at my own behavior and how it affects that, so that I can have good platonic relationships. Because all the platonic relationships I have are like really, really, really good if the other person is as genuine as I am with it, and they're also not like thinking something in the back of the head, like they're trying to get to me or something like that. But yeah, it's not like I've been better at connecting with females my entire life, but like I've always, from like a young age, I've been more around boys and just guys, and like I would maybe only have like one friend that was a girl, maybe, because like not, I think at the time when I was really little, I was like kind of scared to talk to girls or something. But when I started becoming friends with them, I realized how much easier it was to be able to like become more than just like, not more than just friends, but more than just like people that you see occasionally, but people that you can really connect to and talk to about deeper things and have like meaningful connections with them. Because sometimes guys have been really hard-headed in talking about emotions and stuff, and kind of just try and keep it as short as they can in a conversation. But yeah, I've always had a really good ability to have very good platonic relationships. But yeah, as of recent, I've gotten better at drawing a line between the two.
Salvador, yeah, you definitely sound like a sexual 2 Enneagram to me.
It's a bit of a challenge for me to address specifically the question of like platonic relationships with women, because I can only speak to like expectations placed on men and women in our society. Like I haven't noticed any generalizations about each gender that actually hold true in like even the majority of cases, unless you're talking about a specific subculture. Like there's specific personality traits you expect among, like, let's say high school football players, and even then, you know, plenty of them will subvert the expectation. I would say that being an ENFJ has made it easier to connect with and interact with and have casual fun with all kinds of people. And that has given me more opportunities to interact with people to an extent that leads to me finding people who vibe with me really well and who I connect with on a deep friendship level. So that's been easier. I would say it's changed as I've gotten older, because in high school there was more expectations for how men would act and how women were supposed to act. And I often found that it was rare to find as many guys who wanted to like sit and have an emotional conversation rather than, you know, go ride bikes around the neighborhood or toss a football or something. But that became less and less pronounced as a difference as I got older. And I would say that the other main thing that being an ENFJ has contributed to my relationships in that way is an ability to differentiate between different kinds of loves and different kinds of affections. Like this makes it easier for me to define and experience relationships organically rather than having them try to fit into a specific category. Like, I mean, the Greek words for love are a good starting place, where you have like agape and eros and phileo and ludus, and you know, there's lots of different kinds of love and lots of different ways that those kinds of affection can play different roles in different relationships. So to be able to sort of customize the way I see each relationship has enabled me to more accurately match like the nuances that you'll find in each relationship, because each one is different.
It's so wild hearing you guys talk about it. I feel like I relate to each of y'all's experience, but just in like a different way. Like Lonnie, I grew up super conservative. I grew up in a independent Baptist household, which is basically like ultra conservative Baptist. I mean, the women didn't wear makeup, go to the movies, no pants, and I mean it's just that kind of thing. And so I did have a very rigid understanding of what relationships between an unmarried man and an unmarried woman are supposed to look like. I mean, you don't smoke, you don't dance, you don't chew, and you don't date girls that do. Like that was kind of the mantra, right? Like it was very, very separate. But like you, Salvador, like I just was much. I don't want to say more comfortable, but it was just easy to be friends with women. It was easy to talk to. They weren't as judgmental when you went sort of into your sort of emotional or less analytical side. Um, and so I kind of gravitated towards that. But as far as romantically, I just kind of avoided it at all costs because I was a good Christian boy. I didn't want to dive into that. My dad's a pastor, my grandfather's a pastor, my uncle's a pastor. I got a couple aunts that pastors too, and I just didn't want to. I don't know. I didn't want to rag on the family name. So I really avoided that until I got to college altogether. Um, but I think once I got a little bit of distance and got to school and kind of sort of became my own person, then it just became a lot easier. The more romantic side, right? I figured out, and this was also another DZ, and his now wife, Jamila's noticing that I'm a flirty person by nature, and I never really considered myself that because I never dated. Like my first kiss was in college. Like so I just never considered myself a flirt. But even in my male on male relationships, it was quote unquote flirty. Flirty meaning like instigating or like trying to push somebody, see what they're gonna do, or like, just being competitive. Just that sort of I want to see how you're gonna react. And so you kind of get that like that repartee between two people. And so like I recognize like when I was on the team, I was always the trash talker, right? When I was with my boys, I'm always the one that's gonna say something. I'm gonna speak up. I'm gonna call right. And it wasn't necessarily because I was angry or because I had to say it or felt the need to, but because it was fun. And so I think that sort of translated. Like I said, once I got to college and kind of expanded sort of my self autonomy. Just talking to girls and like realizing that I could get girls to like me if I wanted them to. Not like it wasn't God or anything, but it's like, I could figure out how to talk to a girl and pick up whether or not, you know, they was picking up what I was dropping. And if I saw the end, I can make it happen. So yeah. And that's also been super dangerous too. I've had to establish some pretty clear-cut boundaries with my relationships now because, unlike Emrys, I don't feel that I'm very in touch with my emotions at all. I think I'm very good at reading other people's. I think I can feel the vibe in the room. I know how to walk. I know how to operate. But there's a lot of times where I'm feeling something and I don't really exactly know what I'm feeling. I just know it's either good or bad. And if it's bad, I don't want to feel it anymore. And if it's good, I'll do whatever I can to keep feeling that way. But I don't break down the emotions very well at all. Yeah, I guess that's the 7 in me, huh? But yeah, I'm good. I'm good with girls platonically and romantically, I guess.
That was actually one of the things I was about to throw at y'all because, like, when we went through the first round of the questions, and we were talking about, like, yeah, like I was a man that was like in tune with my feelings and stuff like that. I think that, like, that to me, I resonate like more with like how Cam is like, the stereotypical FE user, like FJs, they're usually way more aware of other people's emotions than they are of their own emotions. And it's not to say they never are aware of their own emotions, but that's just like sometimes like the case. But for those who are like so bring an Enneagram back into it. It's like for those who are like especially in the heart triad, so that's the Enneagram 2, the Enneagram 3, and the Enneagram 4. They would be, especially in Enneagram 4, ENFJ, like they, which is very uncommon, but they exist. They would be more in tune with their emotions than like any other ENFJ possibly would be. And then the 2s and the 3s would also be too, which Lonnie, Emrys, and Salvador are all 3s and 2. So that would make sense that me and Cameron are like the 7 and the 9 that, you know, we either, like in Cameron's case, like we run away from like dark emotions, or in my case, like we just numb ourselves to like all types of like desire and stuff like that might like produce like conflict. So I think that's like interesting. But even to an extent, still like just being an FE user, like all of us here, to an extent, we are not as tapped into our emotions as much. And so therefore, like that's why it's so easy for us to like go above and beyond for like other people. And we often have to talk out our emotions in order to like understand like, oh, this is, I guess, how I'm feeling. So there's that. But I think that for me, like a big thing that I learned, which is kind of like what Emrys was bringing up, like, so I relate to all of y'all too. And I talk about this on my channel. So like people are probably already going to be like, you know, understanding this, but the Greek loves, that was big for me, because I always knew, and I think this is a superpower of FENI, so like NFJs, being able to see the nuances of interpersonal dynamics. And so because I was able to see the nuances of interpersonal dynamics, like, hold up, this is a familial relationship. Okay, this is a philia relationship. Okay, this is like ludus, you know, like, and I think that ludus is a big thing for NFJs, because like, well, ENFJs especially, because ludus is the Greek love where, you know, just like what Cameron was saying, like to the Greeks, like, so there's 8 different forms of love. And just like what Cameron was saying, like ludus is the most flirtatious, and it could be anything from going to dance with somebody on the dance floor and all of that, to even drinking with your buddies and bagging on them. And it's like, what? You consider that flirting? You know, like, but that's the thing. Like, that's what the Greeks considered that to be like a form of like flirting. And it's like, yo, well, when you think about it this way, then that's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that was something that like really became like evident and apparent to me, because I realized that like when I started noticing like, oh, there's erotic energy, and there's platonic relationships, and there's romantic relationships, and erotic does not automatically mean romantic, because then a lot of people who sleep with prostitutes and stuff, they're in trouble, you know. But erotic can be laced around romantic. It should be laced with romantic, and erotic can also be laced around platonic. That doesn't mean that, quote unquote, it should, you know, especially as if you're a Christian, and like definitely like that's going against like biblical terms. Like if we're going outside of like a biblical lens, like that's why we have people who say like, no, we're just friends with benefits. Like we know like, no, we're not romantically interacting. We're not romantically interested in each other. We know better, but we are friends enough to where it's like, hey, like we can get off with each other or something like that. So that being said, bring it to me. I already explained like my relationship with women in the past and everything like that. But now I also, you know, like I would say like over time, I grew to learn more about these Greek loves, and not only identifying it in other people, but then especially being like a married man now, like that's helped me a lot. Like, oh, I'm not having crushes on all of these women. I just have like a very strong to connect, you know, deeply with everyone. And when you're secure in yourself too, when you're secure in your masculinity, like I was talking about how when I was younger, I would try to connect deeply with other men. It wasn't anything romantic. It was just like, yo, I just like deep connections. And they were insecure of their masculinity or their sexuality. So they're like, yo, like, I don't want to go there because that what if you catch feelings? I don't know, but like to me, it's like, no, I know I'm straight. So it's like, if I'm quote unquote flirting with Emrys, like, which we were like in our recent video, it hasn't dropped yet. Well, it may have dropped, by the time this video drops. But yeah, like that, I have like security there to know, like, yo, this is just games. And like when it comes to like also like with women who can play that game too, and we know like, oh, this is just playful fun. This is a playful way to interact, and we know that it's not supposed to be leading to romance. I had a lot of like flirtatious moments, and then even with Cameron, like, yeah, we were always saying like Cameron, like he was definitely like a flirt and everything like that, but he would do it like unbeknownst, like he really did not know, like he was unaware that's what he was doing, because Cameron was just, I think that as most ENFJ are, just naturally charming, and because he was like so kind and it was genuine, like people, I think that a lot of men, when you see men in movies and stuff like that, like the perfect guy, it's interesting that they try to emulate us. Like, I don't know if y'all noticed that, but it's when you see like that perfect caricature, like of the Prince Charming, like, like they try to emulate an ENFJ male, like the guy who's gonna wait and watch and make sure that you walked into your door, like walked home when they drop you off, or the guy that's like, very in tune with your emotions and can help you. The guy who's like kind of like alpha, not in the stereotypical sense, but that he's able to talk to his other guy friends, and he's like the one that kind of like stands out in this way, the one that's insightful, all of that, the good guy, the nice guy. Like these are like very like ENFJ kind of tropes. And I noticed that, art imitates real life, and so I saw a lot of times like a lot of guys, they would look like the stereotypical ENFJ, to be able to charm a woman, like to charm women into liking them. And the next thing you know, they're like they switch up, their true selves come out. And then it's like, it's just interesting how they like use these techniques to draw women in. Whereas like for people like us, it's like, no, we just are just naturally like this. But then that could also cause women to look at us with the side eye. It's like, are you really naturally like this, or are you just playing the nice guy so that you can get into my pants later and stuff like that? And so with me, like learning that these are like how like a lot of people like acted, but also just how I naturally am, and there's different types of way like dynamics and stuff like that. That really helped me a lot to be able to distinguish like, oh, I don't have romantic feelings for these people. I just have like, there's a depth of intimacy that I like to have with all people. So yeah.
I was gonna add to that too. Like that takes
Yeah.
a very high level of like emotional intelligence. You know what I'm saying? To have that awareness, because even the way you just broke down like the flirting thing, like I never thought about it like that until you said that. Like you just really unlocked something in my head. I was like, what do you mean like he's flirtatious? But I was like, I guess I never heard nobody explain it like that. So I was like, that's interesting. But kind of going back to what you were saying about like art imitating life, like that's a very valid point. Like it's crazy how like I kind of feel like I've dealt with that in a lot of ways. Like I felt like it's almost like people don't believe that I'm real. Like people be like, damn, like you really exist? Like people like you exist? I'll be like, yeah, like this is who I am. Like
You see how everybody's head started nodding?
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, everybody's head went.
Yeah, I all agree.
We're the most uncommon male type.
Yeah, but it's just
for
like,
a reason.
People don't. I guess it is rare. Like people don't come across, I guess, men like us a lot. So it's like kind of takes people back a little bit, or takes them time to kind of get adjusted. I feel like people have kind of been skeptical of me in ways, or like almost, and I kind of feel like I kind of internalized that, feeling like I had to like prove myself. Like I gotta prove that like, okay, I'm actually this person that I say I am. But everything, I just wanted to add on to what you were saying. Like everything that you said was interesting, and you taught me something new.
I wholeheartedly agree with this. Like it's basically a skill that you develop in getting in touch with your own emotions and understanding what other people are feeling, and negotiating and communicating about that very clearly and openly. Like Cam was describing earlier, and Denzel, not being super easily in touch with our own feelings. For me, I've only been able to get in touch with my own feelings through like externalizing them through almost constant discussion with people who I trust and who know me really well, and through like meditative and contemplative practices where you're like just paying very close attention to what you're feeling. And I would definitely say that that skill is way higher now than it was in like high school or in university. So, I mean, for people who are hearing what we're saying, the ways in which we're describing interacting differ from like the standardly accepted ones because they're coming from a place of like being extremely intentional and extremely sensitive to emotional nuances. For a lot of people, it might be necessary for them to be like, okay, here are the very strong and clear boundaries in like my platonic relationships and my romantic relationships, and I do not cross these things. Like I remember a comedian talking about having a conversation with himself about like if he ever thinks someone is coming onto him in a bar, he's just going to be like, I don't cheat on my wife. And even if she's not doing that, that he's just going to be like, I'm just drawing a hard line. And I think that it's something you have to kind of decide for yourself. Like, how are you going to approach the nuances of relationships and of emotional intimacy? Because you are the only one who can tell, oh, this is risky for me to be doing this level of emotional intimacy with this person versus, oh, this isn't a risk at all. And I think that for me, that was a pretty revolutionary discovery because I was told, like in the evangelical subculture that I grew up in, that your desires are always dangerous, your emotions are always dangerous. Like you can't trust yourself, you can't control yourself. Like you gotta like do everything external to control yourself. It was all about like, don't put yourself in this situation. Don't go to this level of intimacy with a person. There was very little emphasis on like getting to know yourself individually and controlling yourself internally. But I understand why. I think like it's just a challenge to develop that skill, but it's definitely possible for I think anyone to do it.
Yeah, I think that it's
Yeah, I
real. You
definitely
know,
hear
like
that. My bad,
go
DZ.
ahead. No, you're
No, I
straight. You're
was just
straight.
gonna
Go
say
ahead, man.
I really hear that, and it seems to me like the more growth that I've experienced has been because I've found friends who I trust, who I can ask about those emotional questions about myself. Like those are the times where I feel like I've understood myself more is when I've had other people kind of explain me to me. Just I don't know. That's probably not. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but I feel like it is. So yeah.
No, I think that is. That's exactly what I was going to say right before you cut in. I was going to say, like, I think that's the best way for us to be able to learn our own emotional terrain. Like, Emrys, like, really hit the unlock right there. It's like, talk to more people about it. Like, me, I have an FI does like they're really good at like understanding their emotions and stuff like that. So me, I'll talk to her and then she's like, yeah, Denzel, like because the same way that as us as FE dominants, we're so good at being able to navigate and understand the way that people interact is the same way that FI dominants are able to navigate and explain like the internal world of emotions. And so me being married to one, like that was like really good for me because now she just I'll feel a certain way or I'll like say something, I'll talk with her, and then she's like, yeah, you're actually feeling this way because boom, boom, boom. And then now I start like catching the patterns of that. So that's helped me a lot to be able to like understand, like, oh shoot.
Actually, yeah, that's like almost exactly what I was gonna say about what Cam said about not necessarily needing anyone else to like tell me like what I am feeling, but like more specifically with my mom. My mom's an INFP, and she's really good at figuring out, like she knows her emotions like better than anyone I know, pretty much. And I think that's probably where my NI has come in, to draw the line in between why I'm feeling, because like it's not like I don't know what I'm feeling, but like it's like I can't sometimes quite put my finger on it, because like if someone else is involved or something, I'm just like subconsciously considering what they're feeling, or what they might be feeling, that's occupying what I know that I feel. And I feel like me explaining that to someone, like specifically my mom, and her like repeating that to me in the way that she understood on how she might feel about it, or would ask questions to me, it would slowly get me to the point where, not that like she's telling me what I'm feeling, but she's like saying things that suggest what I might feel. And then I'm able to draw the line in between the two. Okay, this is why I feel this way about a certain thing, and this is why I'm acting this way. But yeah, it's not so much as like I have to have someone tell me what I'm feeling, but like if I'm able to get a feel for like, am I really, feeling this way, or is it just like, but yeah.
Yo, so when you were saying that, I kind of had a eureka moment. I wonder if that's part of the reason why, at least myself, I don't know about y'all, were, well, the ones who said this were so much more compelled to have female platonic relationships coming up, because generally speaking, they're more emotional. And even if they're not more emotional, they're more emotionally aware, able to, y'all ever heard that book, Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti? And it's how, like, men are able to sort of put these boxes and compartmentalize a lot better, generally speaking, and women are able to make these somewhat estranged connections. And maybe that's why I was so much more drawn to being around women, because they were able to sort of make connections for me that I wasn't necessarily able to make. I don't know. I think that's pretty interesting. I never thought of that.
No, I think that's spot on. That's spot on. Yeah, but I think that also we were able to help them too. But yeah. So it was a good.
Yeah.
It was a good. I was gonna make a joke, but I don't know if it was a good reciprocal.
Nah. Now you got to do it.
I think 69 dynamics are the best ones. That's what I'll say.
All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all.
All right, bro. Catch you later.
He's trolling Lonnie. He was just kidding.
Oh,
I thought he was for real too. I was like, see, bro.
I know he was for real.
Come on, y'all.
Hey, I just wanted to briefly thank you for taking the time to watch this video, whether it was on regular speed or 2x speed, whatever it was. Just thank you for consuming the content. And around me, you should be able to see a few little buttons and logos for other recommended videos, because I make good content, new ones, but then I also have some really good old content too that you should probably check out. But make sure that if you really like this video, feel free to subscribe, to share. It really helps this humble channel to expand and reach more people and ultimately help more people. So once again, thanks for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your day.